So good to see you and to hang out together again. Oh my goodness. And to be together in the show that's called Conversations with Chris and Crystal. But we've had
our issues.
Yes, we've had some things going on.
As you may have noticed, there's been short videos with just me just giving some opinions about things. And then last month it was all movies from the public domain.
Yeah, that we put in. Yeah, because we just have not been able to get together. Yeah. We haven't been able to get together. And
we didn't want to leave you with nothing to watch. So.
Yeah, that's right. We wanted you to know we were still here somewhere.
Still thinking of you.
And we're dealing with elder care is what we've been doing. And
for those who may not have been on this journey with us, my mom slipped in March in the kitchen and fell, and she was on the road to recovery in April, but had some setbacks, ended up with septic shock, back in the hospital in intensive care for 3 weeks. And boy, oh boy, she and I are going to have a video when she's up to it. And we're going to talk about that because the hospital tried to get us to give up on her. Like they were acting like she was going to die and everything. And we were like, no. You guys are going to continue to care for her, but that's another story. So now she's home. I had moved in to her house, and she's home, and I'm like her full-time caregiver now. So that's what I've been doing. And what's been going on in your life?
Oh, well, my dad fell last April at Easter and hit his head, and it took a couple months for it to show up, but he had a brain bleed. And he was 85, and we went through the same thing. It was a lot of age discrimination in the hospital because of his age. Well, what do you expect? He's going to fall. Well, that's not what happened. He slipped on the ice going to church. And yours were amazed too, weren't they? Because the hospital was amazed. Well, what was her baseline? It's like she was completely independent, didn't need a walker, cane, or anything. And they're, whoa. I know, all of them. And, he would have like 10 or 15, 20 different people coming in a day because the whole hospital rotated all of their people. And so they come in with this chart that obviously says nothing because we had to keep reminding them what his baseline was, and they're like, well, I remember one of them came in and she just said, so you're 85 and you fell down.
Yeah, they act like they're children.
Oh my gosh. And I said, okay, let's just discuss the baseline here. New word that I had to learn.
Lots of new words.
Yeah. And I said, he was totally independent, fed himself, bathed himself, drove everywhere, was working up to like 84. He was still working, and things like that. And they just sit there and they go, oh, he didn't have a walker. He didn't need help going to the bathroom. It's like, no, and no. What do you want? But then, like you said, in 2 weeks of him in there, because he had 2 brain surgeries within just a few days, he started having seizures because apparently the blood on the outside of the brain, when you're older, it doesn't absorb back in like it does when you're younger. And so it sits on the outside and irritates the tissues, and it causes them to have seizures. So he had like 9 hours of seizures. Every 15 minutes he had a seizure.
Did they drain it off, or what did they do?
They did try draining it off, and it was like it wouldn't stop. So they went in and cauterized it. Oh, wow. So that was the 2 brain surgeries in 3 days.
It's a good thing they went in, because what if they had just, let's just let it go and see what happens?
Yeah, no, I don't know if maybe that was the thing. Maybe they had to drain some of it to get to the part where they could finally cauterize. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't there for that part. I went up for the rest of it to just be there so that the family could take turns running and doing whatever they needed to do and not all have to be there at the same time. But like you said, you're there 2 weeks and they take you aside and talk about putting him in hospice.
It's like they just don't. Well, if they were 25 years old, they would do everything they could to save that person. But
Yeah.
when they're older, it's like, oh, well, they're going to die anyway. So.
Right. I don't know. The insurance companies have something to say about that. I don't know. And that is part of it. The insurance companies don't want to cover them because they don't have that much life to live anyway. So what's the point? Why do they have to pay for that? And it gets really, really, really frustrating because now he is absolutely fabulous. Things are going really, really well. He's walked with a walker, but I also have seen him walk without it. I don't think he thinks about it when he does it. He just gets up and goes like he always did. And what's the difference? And so, and he even talks about the fact that his brain is totally intact, and it's everything's the same in his mind. He doesn't see a problem. He doesn't see that anything was different.
Yeah.
And so,
And with my mom, she, because of the sepsis and everything, she had some memory issues, and her cognitive function was down a little bit because, like when she was in the rehab facility, they had this circle, and they said put the clock numbers in it and all this stuff, and most of her clock numbers were on the left-hand side. And then I gave her the clock test after she got home, and she did it perfectly. They were all in the right spot. Mm-hmm. So I know she's been healing,
Yep.
And another thing that happened was her signature. It was really shaky and stuff when she was still in the hospital. And then recently she had to sign something, and it was perfectly normal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it definitely, I remember going through with him, I was there for a month, and I remember him not focusing. He'd be looking off to one side, and I'm over here, and they'd say, "Who is that, Dad?" And he'd go, "That's Crystal," and I'm like, and I'm over here, but he couldn't focus, and I thought, oh, great, now what are we going to deal with here? But I will have to say that I went in faith believing that he was healed, he was whole. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of manifesting, and that absolutely came about. It absolutely ended up that way, and so we're all kind of rooting for him. We think he should be driving pretty soon too.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
good.
We think that's going to happen too because he really is in really, really good shape.
Yeah, well, my mom still has this sore on her back that's healing. It was like this big around to begin with, and that's part of what the setback was, because the first rehab facility she was in did not take good care of her, and she ended up, the sore got way worse, and it was like this deep. So it was really deep. And it was to the bone. I didn't actually see the bone because I was kind of like, if I see her bone, I'm going to throw up. but the nurse told me, yeah, it was to the bone. Anyway, so now it's all healed. It's like this deep now. It's really shallow, and it's a lot smaller. It's like yay big around. Mm-hmm. So, God is healing her.
Yep.
As he promised.
Yep,
and,
absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And so anyway, that's what we've been busy with and doing and running. And mine was up in northern Minnesota. Yours was here in Arizona. So, yeah.
Oh, one of the things. Well, this leads into what we were going to talk about today, which is, have your parents been replaced by aliens? Because people do change as they age. And, if they have an injury, it can affect them too. And like my mother, we have gone round and round, and fortunately it hasn't happened so much lately because her brain is healing. But for a while there, she kept asking me, so who else was living in this house while we were gone? And I was like, nobody. And she had it in her head that, well, one thing she thought was her dad and his girlfriend had moved in and were staying in her room. And I'm like, okay, your dad died before this house was even built. And after he divorced my step-grandma, he had learned his lesson. He wasn't going to get involved with another woman,
Right.
And so she had dreamed it, apparently. So, there were those things. And she would call me by her cousin's name and say, sometimes she wouldn't call me by the name, but she would say, how did you find out that I got hurt? And I said, well, I'm the one that found you, And then she'd say something else, and I'd say, okay, who do you think I am right now?
Yeah.
And she'd say, Mary Ann. I was like, no,
Right.
I'm your daughter. And she said, oh, I knew that. Why do I think you're Mary Ann? So we got past that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so what kinds of things have happened with your...
Well, amazingly with him, and considering brain surgery, that very, very early on, people would come to visit him that he hadn't seen in years, and they would come in and he would say their names immediately. He knew who they were, and he would remember memories of them that they had forgotten.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he remembers that. But he doesn't remember any of that now. I bring it up. I tell him, I told him he was one stubborn, you know what, and he was going to come through it, and he would just laugh at me, and he said, yeah, he goes, yeah, okay, I can see that. And I told him about how he remembered everybody, and he was like, really, I did? I said, yeah, you did. You knew everybody, you knew their names, you had memories of them that they had forgotten about, and now it's, I don't know, I'm trying to think if, I remember him getting sick, and all of a sudden at the hospital, everybody was running around, and they put this shelf unit on the outside of his door, and it had disposable.
Oh yeah,
The whole garb. They had to
Yeah.
have the masks and everything on, and then they had to throw it all in the trash when they walked out the door. And then if they came back in, they had to put it all back on again.
They did that with my mom for a while.
Yeah, and he was running a fever apparently, but nobody told me. And I'm sitting there, and I said, "So, what are we doing?" And they said, "Well, he might be contagious, so we don't know. So now it's a contagious room." And I'm like, "And what am I supposed to do?" And they said, "Oh, you can just stay there."
Oh, see, they were the opposite with me because my mom, she had this thing called C. diff. It's
Yeah.
when your something within your, like the good bacteria
Bacteria,
in your
uh-huh.
guts turns on you and gives you diarrhea. So she had that for a while, and they would come in and garb up and everything, and I thought nothing of it, and I
No.
never got sick from it or anything. And then
no.
all of a sudden, this one woman comes in, she says, "We ask," and she didn't even tell me the truth, because she said, "We ask that people who are visiting patients who are on oxygen put this blah blah." And I was like, nobody ever told me that before.
Yeah.
What's changed,
Yeah.
And it wasn't even because of the oxygen; it was because of the C. diff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I really didn't know what to expect, and he was starting to have delirium from the fever, and that's what happens when he gets a fever. He would just kind of loses track, and then all of a sudden there was this one lucid moment. Everybody was running back and forth, and they were all out of the room, and I was standing there, and Dad said, "What's going on?" And I told him that they, are testing to see what's wrong with you, if you have flu or if you have COVID, or, they don't know. And he said, "I knew something was wrong. I had a terrible headache this morning." And that was it. And it turned out, honestly, they thought it was an allergic reaction
Oh really?
that raised his fever. And yeah.
Well, I learned something too about my mom that I didn't know before, that she's allergic to penicillin.
Oh, wow.
I never knew that.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they've given me penicillin before, and
Yeah.
nothing, no big deal. And
Yeah.
and then I found out, because they asked her, she said, "Oh yeah, I'm allergic to penicillin."
What?
When?
Yeah, when did that happen? Well, you were young once. You didn't get to hear all these things about her. I didn't realize that Dad had polio.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So when he was younger, and that came up, and I was like, "What? When did
Yeah,
that
you learn
happen?"
all these things about your parents
do,
you never knew.
You do, and when we're talking about, the aging parents and the things changing, I have a girlfriend that moved back in with her parents, about 4 or 5 years ago now, and it amazes me how people don't realize your parents are now in their 80s.
Yeah.
You are not moving home like you're 12.
Yeah.
And they're in their 30s. It just, and it amazes me how people go, "I just don't understand why they are the way they are. I just don't understand why they're OCD, why they're this." I mean, they never were before. It's like, well,
People change.
It's been many years. Yes. And I try to encourage people to just go with the flow, because and understand it will be different. It will not be the same ever. I mean, you get even your parents who are in their 50s and their 60s, they're not in their 30s anymore, and it's not going to be the same. And you think you're just going to move in and everything's going to be hunky-dory.
And that can be scary too, because for instance, if they start losing their memory, their short-term memory,
Yep.
my mom started losing hers well before this accident happened, and It gets scary, and like I've said in a prior video, when I get scared, I kind of yell sometimes and I remember when I was younger, my great aunt Rhett, she was taking care of my great grandma, and she would forget things, and my great aunt Rhett would yell at her, and I always wondered why. And now that it happened with me, I was like, now I get it. She was afraid.
Yeah, you just don't want to. You don't want to deal with it. You know, you want.
I just told you that.
Yeah, I know, and that's the problem. Oh, I remember my mom always yelling at my grandmother too. Ma, you don't know what you're talking about, you know. And it's like, okay, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was the granddaughter, so I saw her in a different light at that time. I wasn't old enough to understand.
And it's kind of taught me now. Now when it happens, I don't freak out so much. I just repeat what I said. And as if it was the first time I said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to upset them either, because why?
Yeah, it doesn't gain you anything. But yeah, it is. And this OCD stuff, my husband was OCD with music. Now he's OCD about everything. It's just moved into other areas. But I will give him this: of all the junk that I have everywhere and the stuff that I have piled up here and there, which I am getting rid of, bit by bit, because we're into the minimalist
I've
lifestyle.
got 4 more bags to give away.
Oh no, Lord have mercy. I know. I'm sure if I had to move, oh Lord, who knows what would come out of here.
Well, and I thought I got rid of everything that I could get rid of, and I'm finding more stuff.
I know. It's not hard. It's not hard.
Plus, your tastes change as you get rid of stuff.
Yeah,
You're kind of like, I don't even want this anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's like my girlfriend said. She goes, "Want for nothing." That's your biggest, you don't need to be ordering 100 different things unless you need something, or you're ordering your white paper products, or, something like that. Want for nothing. And that's a new tag to put in your head. Like, okay, want for nothing. Okay. Well, consumables, that's all you really need to have. Your food,
That doesn't mean you can't treat yourself occasionally, but you. And now we're getting off into decluttering.
Yes, we are. So, that's another story.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but again, she was talking about this OCD thing with her parents. Where did that come from? And it's like, well, they're in their 80s. They have a nice lifestyle. They have a beautiful home. She has everything immaculate. Her life is all, her mother's life is all around her, the way that she likes it. And then you come in
and upset everything.
And then you wonder what the problem is. And it's like, because they just can't accept, you've been gone for 40 years. Now you're back, and what? It's something to think about. And I don't know if we're just that selfish and that self-centered.
I think it's more, not necessarily selfishness, but more of a not. I hate to use the word thoughtlessness, but it is kind of thoughtlessness, because you don't think about those things, because that's not what's going on with you.
Yeah, it's about you, and you think, you're going to go back and it's going to be exactly the same as it's always been. And it's like, it's not even close. So don't expect that. Don't look for that. And look for things to be different and to be changing. And, she wanted to move in with us, and she said, I can't be with anybody who's OCD. And I said, well, Jeff is OCD. And she said, does he know that? And I said, yes, because I tell him every day. Yeah. So there. But yeah.
Well, tell him what else she did to that one lady she did move in with.
Oh yeah, she did. You see, this is the thing, people. We're older now, and hopefully wiser. And she moved in with a gal who turned out to be OCD. Within a day or two, she knew. Apparently, because it was the woman's home that she moved into with her, they had agreed to that. They did a great deal of discussion about it. And she laid a rug in the bathroom a certain way, and she liked it that way. And my girlfriend moved it just to irritate her. And
why would you do that?
Why would, but because she can't accept the fact that people are OCD. And it happens. And as you age, it becomes more of a thing for some people. And you just have to allow for it. I try to keep things, where they should be, so that nobody gets confused as to where to find things in the house. And that seems to work out really well.
Yeah. Another thing that happens, though, I remember when my grandfather, he had moved down here and lived with my parents for a while before he passed, and he had to give up driving. And this is the weird thing about Arizona. is that you can be blind,
Yes.
and they'll let you renew your driver's
Yes,
license.
yes.
He had macular degeneration. The same thing's happening with my brother's mother-in-law now, because she's got it, and she can't find her car in the parking lot because she can't see it, but she can still drive.
Yep.
Anyway, so they let him continue to drive, and my brother took out the distributor, so he couldn't drive anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, it was
Well,
bad.
don't you love these people that walk with walkers to get to the car to drive
Well,
the car? I mean, because if you can't walk,
you can still drive.
well, no, well, that's what my dad said when he was laying in the bed and couldn't walk. He said, "Well, I don't need to walk to drive."
Well, yeah, you're just moving your foot,
Well, but your ability to tell your feet to move, and you can't walk. You can't tell your feet to move to the pedals.
But it could be that you can't walk because your knees are bad.
Well, it could be, but I mean, some of these people are in serious help. I mean, they really need help.
But the point I was trying to get to was that I think about that sometimes, like, it's going to be hard to give up that independence of driving.
It is.
Really hard because, and especially in Arizona where we don't have a good mass transit system.
No, we don't.
You really have to drive.
Yep.
So, I think about that sometimes.
Yeah, no, it is really, really tough. But yeah, I have been amazed at these people that get out of their cars barely can get out of their cars and can barely walk. And they have to get to the walker to, or they come, out and look to you to maybe you could give them a cart because they can't leave their car. They have to hang on to it until they get a cart.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, I've had that happen too. Then we can tell our favorite Lowell story. That's my brother. It's just too cute because these elderly people that we have around here, we have so many of them. And he and I went to Walmart. He actually works at Walmart in Nebraska. And we were here going to Walmart for something, and I didn't find it. And everywhere we went, he would see somebody who worked there with their name tag on, and he'd say, "Hey, Cindy, how's it going? Having a good day? Good. I like to see people smile. I want you to have a good day. Hey, Bob, how's it going over there? Good to see ya." And I'm like, oh my goodness. Going through the store, we get out. I have the cart, and typical of Arizona, a little old man walked in and he saw me and the cart, and I said, "This is a good cart," because that's a big deal with them. If it's one that's too hard to push or something isn't working,
and it leans, goes one way.
They can't handle it. I said, "This is a good cart," and he said, "Oh, thank you," and he took it. And my little brother came close to me at the door. He goes, "Do you know him?"
It's like he didn't know any of the people he was talking to.
I said, "No, I did not know him."
Or it'd have been funny if you said, "I know him as well as you know those people."
Yeah, that's it. So that's what we were doing, and I just thought that was so funny. But that's dealing with elderly people everywhere that you go, and understanding that, guess what, they've changed.
Oh, another thing that annoys me, or recently annoyed me, when my mom was in the hospital, they had her down as having COPD. She's never smoked.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't have COPD. And they were like, "Oh, she's got COPD. We got it." I was like, "No, she doesn't have that." And the guy came in to do a breathing treatment. I said, "I want you to know she doesn't have COPD." And he goes, "Well, it's in her records."
Yeah. See, that's the hard part. Yeah.
It's like,
I don't understand that.
I don't care if it's in her records. It shouldn't be in her records because she doesn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's another thing that you got to be careful of with doctors. Is their diagnosis true?
Yeah.
Because I think that people, if a doctor tells you, "Oh, this little mole you've got on your neck there, that's cancerous," your brain is going to make you believe that.
Yep.
So, you got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, and you have to, like one gal had told me, she said, you could say to them, "I heard you," and then walk away from it. And do not receive it. Yeah. Do not accept that into your body, because that's not necessarily true. Because medical is a practice. Mm-hmm. It's not an exact science. It's just, it never has been, and they don't commit to that either.
Yeah. And then, what was the other thing we were talking about the ads on TV for medications?
Oh, I hate that, because it's telling your brain, you might have this. That's what they say. Ask your doctor about it. And have you ever noticed you don't even know what it's for?
that, and then the side effects are worse than the
Oh
problems.
my goodness.
Oh, yeah, you may have a little bit of trouble, like you've got allergies, okay,
Yeah,
seasonal
yeah.
allergies. Try this drug, and it may cause temporary blindness or liver dysfunction
Or death, all of
Yeah.
them get to death eventually.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why would I want that? I'd rather blow my nose than deal with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's exactly it. And so, but again, now they're starting, oh, get this drug, get this drug. I mean, it's almost like they make it look so enticing. I mean, what did we do with cigarettes when we were selling them on TV? They were glamorous. They were all of these different things. They're doing exactly the same thing now.
And I was just thinking, pretty soon we're going to start seeing ads for, are you on this medication? Try this medication to counteract the side effects of that medication. And then pretty soon it's going to be popping pills all day
You better
long.
put these two together because they work so much better. And that's happening a lot.
Oh.
I have heard that. If you're taking this, add this because you'll feel much better when you have, and it's like, oh my goodness, you guys, they're chemicals. Better living through chemistry. I mean, come on, it's not good for you. And in my case, I'm so allergic to so many different things that I don't even want to find out. It's amazing what affects me very negatively.
Yeah. It's like, go natural as best you can for as long as you can.
And that was the other thing with my dad. He never took any medications. He's 85, no medications. And that just blew their minds at the hospital. It's like, what? No, wait, no.
Oh, and that's another thing with my mom. So the fall, her heart rate was irregular after the fall. It had never had been before. So they put her on this drug to regulate her heart. And now I haven't taken her off of it because I don't know if she's okay to be without it. We've got to get her to a doctor after her wound is healed. I got to take her to an orthopedic guy to see about her knees too, because and all that.
Yeah.
But I got to get her to a doctor eventually to find out about that. But they gave her drugs for edema because when she was in intensive care, her limbs swelled up. So they gave her drugs for edema and they kept her on it. And the potassium is, because if you're on drugs for edema, it sucks out your potassium, so they have potassium pills. So I just found out recently, I took her off the edema pills when she first got home, because I'm like, you're not swollen.
Yeah.
We don't need this. But I kept giving her the potassium because I didn't know what it was for. And I asked the nurse the other day, what is the potassium for? Oh, it's for edema, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, then you don't have to take these big horse pills anymore.
Yeah.
I had to break them in half, and she still have to choke them down. So now she's not taking that anymore either. And, it's like you got to make sure you know what all these things are for.
That's it.
And, monitor your loved one. Like and they gave me blood pressure meds for her to take too. Well, I've been taking her blood pressure every day, and it's pretty low. It's been like 108. One day it was a little scary. It dropped down to 90 something. And so I took it again just to make sure. And it was fine. It was up above 100. You got to be above 100 just for your information. If it
And you got to be below 140 on the top number.
Yeah, on the top number, you need to be at least above
100 to 140.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. So I stopped giving her the blood pressure meds, and then if a nurse takes her blood pressure and it's higher, like 130 something or more, then I'll give her a pill. But
you know that they call when have you ever noticed when you go to the doctor and your blood pressure goes up?
Yeah.
And they call it white coat syndrome. If you press your hands together in an isometric exercise for 15 seconds, your blood pressure goes down.
I also heard if you breathe in like for 6 seconds, like count of 6. So 6 and 6, just keep breathing like that all through it. That'll help lower your blood pressure too.
Yeah. So it really do go onto YouTube, take a look at that. There's so many little tricks. I was amazed because Jeff goes every year to renew his driver's license for CDL, and every time we go, they play with his blood pressure, trying to get it to go down so that they can say he's got good blood pressure. We went in this time. I had him do this, and it was fine.
And another
thing
too about blood pressure, which just went out of my head.
It's just a number.
Oh,
that's
in the hospital. They didn't worry until the top number was 160. So that tells me if you're between 100 and 155, I wouldn't even be on blood pressure meds. In fact, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
But
That's, yeah.
I'm just saying, because they don't even say, they really need a drug until 160.
Yeah.
So I think, people get too hysterical these days about just a number.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think I told you before, one time I was listening to an old radio show of our Miss Brooks, and her boss went to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, yeah, you're at 150 over such and such, so your blood pressure's slightly elevated. Well, one time I went to the doctor, and it was a nurse practitioner, and the thing kept tightening so much, it made me so nervous. I was freaking out, like, it's going to rip my arm off. My blood pressure was over 150. She says, your blood pressure's dangerously high. And I was like, what are you saying? I mean, dangerously high is like 200. Okay?
Yeah, that's dangerous.
So, again, you can't trust what doctors say,
And
which is another thing be careful of, because when they're in hospice, like, for instance, my mom is now technically in hospice because Medicare will pay for the hospital bed and the wheelchair and the walker and everything else she needs while she's in hospice. If she wasn't in hospice, then we would have to pay out of pocket. So we decided that was the best method, and the nursing care. We wouldn't have nursing care staff coming in to help because we wouldn't be able to do it. Medicare's paying for it now. So whenever your loved one goes to hospice, they give you morphine. Do not give your parent or loved one morphine unless they're really dying.
And there are people who are in a great deal of pain, and we've experienced that before in our family too, where.
But morphine will slow down your system.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole.
Death.
Well, that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
But like in Jeff's mom's situation, she was in the hospital in hospice, and because of insurance reasons, they can't give you painkillers. They can only give you so much, and then it wears off. And she struggled, and her daughter was with her. Her daughter was a nurse. And she said, never again. And she found out if you take your hospice home, you can have as much morphine as you want. And that, because you're letting them go. They've decided, in this case, she decided instead of getting amputations for her foot was turning black, forget it. She's 88 years old. She decided to go. And then you can help control the pain for them in that time. But yeah, you're right. No, you don't need it. You don't need it otherwise. Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine, her boyfriend had something going on in his intestines, and the doctors weren't figuring it out because he had had cancer before, but it was in remission. And so they kept saying, oh, it's the cancer. And they're like, no, it's not the cancer. But anyway, so they put him on hospice care so that they could get the medical help and whatnot. And his daughter was so anxious to inherit his money that she wanted to take over the hospice care. She finally got her way, did it, fed him full of morphine, and he died, within days.
Yeah. So
because
you just have to, and then that brings us to another fun fact. How we have on our driver's license that we are donating.
Oh, organs?
Organs, yeah.
Oh, yes, we've talked about that before.
I still haven't gone to get it off of there. I'm going to get it. Yeah, we're both going to go get it off of there because they're killing people to get their organs.
Yeah, I saw
Letting
something on YouTube. They were talking about this guy. He was brain dead. They declared him brain dead, and he was going to be an organ donor. So they take him in there, and he starts fighting them while they're about to prep him to get his organs out. And so the organ donation go-between lady, she was between the organ donation company and the hospital. She calls her boss and she says, he's fighting them and the doctor won't do it. He says, get another doctor.
Oh my goodness.
And then the poor man, when he came to himself again, he felt bad because these people who needed his organs didn't get them. And it's like, dude, you're still using them.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works. Yes.
So again, and that's the guilt. Shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Yeah, no, that's, that, and again, because your family can determine too if you're going to be an organ donor or not. They can determine at the time.
So yeah, you put it in your directives if you're doing a health care power of attorney and stuff. You can put in there, do not donate my organs.
Unless, because if the family decides, well, okay, maybe his eyes, maybe, whatever. But, no. You know what my parents are doing? They have donated their bodies to science. And the University of Minnesota will come and pick up their body and take it for a year. and then they'll bring it back and bury it or do whatever you want, and they'll pay for it.
Yeah,
Which-
that's something you can do.
That's something interesting. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And so there's just lots of options, lots of different things. And where did we start this conversation?
Well, we were talking about parents being replaced by aliens.
Yes. They just aren't the same as they used to be, but they can be every bit as wonderful as they were, just different.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, they're facing their own mortality, because the higher your age goes, the closer you get to not having much left. I mean, it's
and no
just a fact.
friends. Your friends are all gone.
They start
Yep.
dying, and then you start thinking about your own. Well, like I said too, since this happened with my mom, I'm starting to think about getting older too.
Yeah.
The fact that I just go about my life like, oh, I'm still like, I feel like I'm in my 30s and blah blah blah, and then you look in the mirror sometimes and you're like, do people look at me and say, what's that crazy old woman doing?
Yeah, you do.
So
You wonder. Well, the one thing I do know too is my mom, early in her life, I think she was 45 when she got divorced, and she went and lived in subsidized housing because she was on disability. She had a herniated disc in her neck and couldn't continue to work on a computer and all that kind of stuff. So there she was. And she kept moving from different apartments, but she was Section 8, she, subsidized, and some beautiful apartments. I mean, nothing like, but the hard part was all the elderly people around her that became her friends, and the next morning you would wake up and somebody would be gone.
yeah, that would be hard.
And I really think it took her down several notches. It took quite a few years. She died at 77, but I really believe that being surrounded by that constantly with no youthful beings in your life or whatever it might be, keeps you looking that direction.
Yeah.
So you really have to take care of, as we say, take care of yourself, because you have to be aware that that could happen to you. You can become very depressed and not even notice it because you're trying so hard to help someone. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard as caregivers too. There was this gal that I met at my my mom's rehab place, the good one, not the bad one. And her grandfather was in rehab. And one time this guy, like, he was here, my mom was here, and there was this other guy over here. So the other guy over there fell out of his bed one day, and I heard him yelling, "Help! Help!" And I peeked in his door. I said, "I'm getting a nurse for you. Hold on." And so I got the nurse, and then I come walking up, and then she was standing outside her grandfather's place, and she said, "What happened?" I said, "Oh, he fell, and blah blah." And we got to talking, and so we exchanged numbers. So I texted her recently and said, "How are you doing?" And it took I think a week or two before she got back to me. I thought, well, she's forgotten about me, whatever, it doesn't matter. But then she got back to me and she said, "Oh yeah." And we were talking about how hard it is as a caregiver. I suppose there are caregiver support groups somewhere.
I would hope so.
But you feel very alone.
You do.
And you don't know, who can I talk to who's been through this and stuff like that. And it's hard. And in my case, my mom is not so out of it or anything that I can't leave for a while, because otherwise we wouldn't be here talking.
Yes,
now.
right. Yes.
So,
yes.
I can leave her
Okay.
for a while and go and do stuff and come back, and it's fine. But, if you're caring for somebody who had Alzheimer's, you can't leave them alone for a moment.
You can't.
So, you need to find a support group. And, unfortunately, I have this lady that she and we can chat, and I can chat with Crystal because she's been through it. And my other friend, whose boyfriend that I just told you about died, she's been through it. She and I chat. So, you need that support group.
You do. You really do. So, all said and done, as we always say, take care of yourself because nobody else will.